Hi again, everybody. Welcome back to the Center Court podcast, centralmaine.com sports department. I'm Travis Barrett with Drew Bonifant. We've been at the Augusta Civic Center now for the better part of our adult lives. It feels like Class A North boys quarterfinals tonight. Earlier today, we had Class D South boys and girls games. And then up in Bangor, we had Class B North basketball. And there's also been some Class B South basketball as well down in Portland. So it's been busy. How are you holding up, Drew?
It's been a full slate. I'm doing pretty well. That last game was pretty exciting, so it kind of had a bit of a rejuvenating element to it.
Yeah, let's start with Class A North boys quarterfinals really quickly. I'm gonna bury the lead on this one and let you know that Brewer, number 6 Brewer beat number 3 Mount Blue 70-60. Number 7 Skowhegan beat number 2 Hamden 68-63 as the session opened today with a couple of upsets. And then at the night session, Lawrence kind of came back from a slow start. In a 4-5 game, they beat Erskine 53-38. And then, of course, the game that Drew and probably everyone is still talking about, even though it's now officially Sunday morning. Cony 73, Medomak 71. Did not at any point look like a 1 versus 8 game. Cony gets a game-tying three-pointer from Simon McCormick with under 38 seconds left in regulation, and then a steal and a layup from McCormick with 7 seconds left to lift the Rams. Drew, I will let you have the floor on this one.
Yeah, it was just an excellent game. It was it looked for a while. I mean, well, you were talking about that didn't look like a 1 versus 8, and it did not. I mean, when you break it down, Cony was 14-4 coming in. Medomak was 12-6. And Medomak had played Cony to a 4-point score and a 4-point Cony win in the regular season. So the signs were there that this was going to be the kind of game it was. But even so, Medomak came out playing well, and Cony struggled to find the game. They went 2 of 18, TJ Maine said, in the first half from 3-point range, and just weren't able to get themselves going. Shots weren't falling. Passes were being. They weren't able to find people, either whether sending the ball inside or pass along the perimeter. Medomak's defense was getting the better of Cony, and they just looked completely out of sorts. They're down 11 points at the end of the third quarter, but it was like 11 points going on 30. I mean, this was it felt like a maybe we differ on how
the
deficit felt. I felt like Cony was really out of answers, and then all of a sudden they hit McCormick hits a 3 at the end of the third quarter. He hits 2 along with Kyle Dew, at the start of the fourth quarter, it's a brand new ball game. Still went down to the final wire before McCormick made those layups. It was Cony showing how they got that 1 seed at the end of the game, but it was also Medomak just being relentless and really never giving in.
Yeah, they didn't.
If the script was for them to be going home tonight, they certainly didn't get that memo.
Yeah, I thought. I think 2 things out of it. One, Medomak's youth, I think, ultimately caught up to them. They've got 2 freshmen playing key roles for them. They've got a third that plays a lot. They have bright futures. Mm-hmm. And they withstood a lot in 3 quarters and had the game, somewhat in control. I still felt like because Cony can shoot the 3, and I know that they looked like they couldn't find a shot for a while. I still felt like 10 points isn't a whole lot if you hit a couple of them. But still, my first thought is Medomak's youth kind of caught up to him. But I also have this weird feeling going forward that even though I thought this game was ripe for an upset last night when we talked, mm-hmm. I have a sneaky feeling that Cony's not going to be challenged again in this region. Like I can envision a semifinal and final wins by 20-plus points in each of them, because I think that's a kind of win that a team, if you were looking for confidence or if they needed any kind of confidence, they got it tonight.
There's probably an element of that they, and Maine said this afterwards. He says that there's a saying that, to win this tournament, you got to survive a day where you're not playing your best. And so there is that element of maybe this was Cony's bad game and they withstood it. But that being said, I think we saw today that the field is as deep as we've been talking about. I mean, I don't think Brewer is your typical 6 seed last team in kind of thing. I mean, they handled Mount Blue at the end of the regular season. They handled them again today. So it might be Cony's to lose from here. It is Cony's to lose from here, but I think that there are still some challenges in the Rams' way between now and when this thing is over.
Yeah, I think in the first game tonight, again in that 4-5 game, Lawrence wins. Probably not a surprise. If I told you they were down 16-6 5 minutes into the game, and they were pretty awful, and Erskine made a lot of shots, and then over the course of the game they end up with like a plus 30 turnaround there. But I'm not sure. Cony's not going to give Lawrence the breaks that Erskine did. Erskine went a 17-and-a-half-minute stretch where they had one field goal.
Yeah.
So that's more than half the game. And even when Cony struggles, you're not getting that from them.
Exactly, and that was that was a case where Erskine lost that game because they don't have Cony's firepower. Like
Yeah.
Cony basically did have that stretch where they were completely out of sorts, and they were able to survive it because when they get hot, they can put up points in a hurry. And Erskine's just not built that way. Erskine's not built to withstand stretches where they just can't score points. They're built to bang teams down low and get points that way and challenge your shots up close and win a lower scoring game. And so when they went ice cold and Lawrence got out to that big lead, they really were fighting left-handed to try to get back in that game.
Yeah, they sure were. And I think, so if we look at the two early games, 6 Brewer, 7 Skowhegan, both advance. Skowhegan, teams still have to find an answer for Marcus Christopher. You think of him as a football player first, but he's a pretty darn good basketball player. And you made a comment during the game as it got tight late. He's a player who wants the ball. He's not afraid of the spotlight. I think Brewer, the way they're playing as a team right now, I might give them the edge, but I think you still have to stop Christopher if you're going to beat that team.
Absolutely, and I mean, McCormick scored 28 points tonight, but I think Christopher was probably the most impressive player, start to finish, in any game today. He was excellent. I mean, it was Hamden. In order to beat Hamden, they needed Christopher to be a star, and he was today. It was whether it was knocking down tough shots to both kind of stymie Hamden runs and allow Skowhegan to keep pace, because Hamden was shooting really well. Hamden played a great game. This wasn't them just having a clunker here. They play well, but Skowhegan just kept leaning on Christopher to come through time and time again, and he did. He had the ball in his hand. He was the one bringing it up. He was the one setting it up. He was then getting the ball and knocking down shots. He was feeding outside shooters. And then in the fourth quarter, he started taking to the basket and going to the line, and he was knocking down free throws. He was excellent. Yeah,
just quickly on the Mount Blue Brewer game, I felt like Brewer was a team that they maximized every possession today. And there was a stretch in the second quarter as they started to open up a lead and take control of that game where Mount Blue, had good possessions, got to the foul line a bunch, but they were trading 1-point possessions for 2- and 3-point possessions with Brewer. There was no magical 18-0 run. There was no, they came out and scored the first 20 points of the game and had a hot start. They just wore them down, point by point, possession by possession. And, what was a 3-point game, suddenly you looked at it and it was a 12-point game, and you thought, this one's getting away from Mount Blue pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's like a slow leak in the balloon or something like that, where you just keep looking at it and it's getting smaller and smaller. In this case, the deficit was getting bigger and bigger, but not in big increments. It was in small ones because Brewer was just. If they didn't get points on a trip down, it would still be, they still got a good shot, and they still seemed to get a second chance opportunity, and it seemed like Mount Blue really had to work in order to get them to not score on the way down the court. It was also a very efficient game, and they played about as well as you could have asked, as well as they could have looked to play in this one.
Yeah, and I think ultimately their final shooting percentage for that game is somewhere in the upper 50s. I think they were 57 or 58%. Mount Blue coach Travis Magnuson said afterwards, it really wasn't as much what we did as they just shot the ball really well. And he said he was a little bit surprised because he had seen Brewer 4 or 5 times this year and had not really, their shooting hadn't been what had stood out from them. So I think today Brewer kind of put it all together. I think they've done that here lately down the stretch. But they just, if they're going to make shots like that, that's a tough out for anybody.
Yeah, I mean, and certainly Brewer made it tough on Mount Blue with the way they shot the ball. I feel like if Mount Blue played as well, played a great game by their standards, they would look more like Hamden did today, kind of taking that down to the last wire. Mount Blue seemed to struggle as the game went on. Just a tough time. James Anderson, I think, had 11 points at halftime, and he had and it was a while before he
Yeah.
I think he
finished
had
with 13.
finished with 13 and didn't add to that total until the fourth quarter or something like that.
And a couple of foul shots, I believe.
Yeah. It just Mount Blue just found it tougher to they'd hit people for outside shots and they just wouldn't fall. And whenever offensive opportunities they were getting, it was they were trying to do stuff off the dribble and it just wasn't clicking for them. So it was they definitely left points out there. But Brewer, they would have had to play a great game to top Brewer today.
I want to switch gears here quickly. Class B girls today, defending Class B state champion Winslow. They get a quarterfinal win over Old Town, 36-29. Also, Winslow will face MDI, which was a 42-27 winner over MCI. Make sure you don't switch your consonants there. You'll have an error in your newspaper. I think Winslow is sort of following the same script of I see a win where they score 36 points and hold a team to under 30 in a tournament game. It's a new coach. It feels like the same script kind of works for the Black Raiders. They like defense, that team.
Yeah, and a lot of players are back from that team last year. So it could just be that, even with a new coach calling the shots, the players get to the stage and they know the way they need to play.
Yeah.
They know the style of defense that, hey, when we played this way last year, it worked out for us. And so it was kind of there were some up and down moments throughout the regular season, but when you have a team that has the experience that they have, it could be, you flip a switch when you get to the playoffs and you remember how you need to play to win these games.
I think, too, to Brenda Beckwith's credit, and she is in the Maine Basketball Hall of Fame, I think she looked at last year's team when she took it over, and she thought, let's just take the next step. And she likes to play, run and gun and shoot threes and impress everywhere. Had a conversation with her after they lost to Winslow. They lost to Waterville, at Waterville, one of the last games of the regular season. One of the things that I had said to her was, last year I watched Winslow several times, and I thought, they don't score as many points as you think they would for such an athletic team and the kind of group that they are. I think, I don't want to put words in Brenda's mouth, and I certainly don't want to attribute things to her that she may or may not have said. But my guess is as they got to the playoffs, she realized the way I want to play isn't working. This group is really good at this. We're going back to that, I'm not going to try to reinvent the wheel here. And I think if I look at the scores and I look at, Winslow winning the KVAC championship game over Waterville again, everybody kind of takes those conference championship games differently. I think they're starting to figure out their identity just in time for a playoff run.
Yeah, you definitely see teams do that now and again. I mean, I know Tim Bonson had a similar season with the Erskine boys this year where he looked at his size and he said, we're going to be a back-to-the-basket, pounded-inside team. And he realized, hey, I have some guys who are 6'3", 6'4", but they're not comfortable playing that way. Yeah. And so they turned into, they move guys from, they move guys from center to power forward or from power forward to a guard or something like that. So you have 18 games. You have some time to try to see your plan your team kind of grow into your plan, but you get down the stretch and if you feel like your team still should be headed another gear, you make a change. And if that's what's happened at Winslow, it certainly looks like they're getting it right in the right time.
Yeah. Class B boys in the North, MCI overtime over Oceanside. MCI had to come back and tie that game in regulation. They win it in overtime. That's a big win for the Huskies. In Class B South, I know a team that you like, Drew. Marana Cook 55 over Yarmouth 41. That was a 2-7 game, I believe, in the South. Mm-hmm. I think that's a nice tournament opening win for the Black Bears.
It is, and Yarmouth beat them last year, so it both scratches a personal itch, but it's also, I think, big for them to think, okay, we're what we think we were in this field. Because last year they had another good record. They weren't as highly seeded, but they were coming with a good record, and they were one and done. And so if those thoughts of, well, hey, we have a good season, then we get in this B South field, and we're kind of behind the grade here. A win like this helps dispel that thinking and lets them think, okay, we're here because we're the 2 seed because we deserve it. Yeah. And I mean, we've talked before on both center court throughout the season that this is a good, a deep Marana Cook team, and it's tough to shut them all down. It's tough to keep them all out of the game, and so if they're playing in the postseason the way they have in the regular season, they're going to be a tough out for anybody they play.
Class D girls, number 1 Rangeley, 56-23 over Seacoast Christian, and the rivalry game of the day, Valley 52, Forest Hills 29. That's on the girls' side. Boys, mild upset, a 5 over a 4. Greenville beat Rangeley 55-38, and number 1 and still undefeated, the Fighting Anthony Amaros from Forest Hills, 85. Seacoast Christian 33. I think I speak for all of us when I say Forest Hills is as fun a Class D team to watch as there is. For such a small roster in a little tiny town, they can shoot the lights out.
Yeah, they can, and they. I came to that game kind of midway through and sat down. I saw a player. I think it was, grab a rebound, make a move around somebody, and going for an athletic layup. And I hear him say it was Jacob Rivas, and it's like that's maybe their third leading scorer on a daily basis. Yeah. I mean that is a deep team. That is a team that I think could give some Class C teams, even some really good Class C teams, a run for their money. I don't know how a school of that size finds the depth that they do, but they've got it, and it's they'll have a test with Greenville. That's the team that gave them the toughest challenge. Granted, it was still a 13-point decision, but. So this won't be a cakewalk in the semifinals, but that is a lethal team, especially in this Class D field.
Yeah, I think one thing, the matchup for Forest Hills against Greenville, and Anthony talked about it after the game, is one of the problems with Greenville is they have a little more size and a little more physicality, and they've kind of been in this situation before. Mm-hmm. It's important to remember that as good as Forest Hills has been and as many points as they score, they've been one and done the last couple of years, even with good teams. So I know they're looking ahead at that game and thinking Greenville's a tough test for them because they're going to play a little bit differently. And Forest Hills wasn't tested a whole lot this year, let's be honest. So I think that'll be an interesting kind of game. I think Greenville, they played a little bit of a 1-3-1 zone, which is a new wrinkle for them. When Forest Hills played them the first time around, they had not seen that. Yeah. So I know that raised some eyebrows over on the Tigers' sidelines. Like, let me see what you're doing here. So it'll be interesting to see how that game goes, but, I know we said it before the tournament, or at least I said it before the tournament. I feel like in Class D South, we just have to get through the quarterfinals. Let's go play the semifinals, because I think now we're going to see the teams that deserve to be in tournaments, and we're going to see some better games, both on the boys and the girls side. And I think Forest Hills, if they're around all week, they're going to be fun to watch. They are as good a basketball team. They play basketball. They play the right way. Yeah. It's not a typical Class D team with one standout player who just goes out and scores 38 points and you win 43-40.
Yeah, it really is a team effort with them, and they have, they can win the rebounding battle. They can shoot the lights out. They can be a team that just pushes the pace and slashes right by you and gets points that way. The Seacoast Christian today, I think, at one point had 36 points, which wasn't too bad an output. Midway through the fourth, maybe a little late in the fourth, but they're down almost 50 points because Forest Hills they can just score points in a hurry and score a lot of points in a short amount of time. It's a potent team, but Greenville is going to give them a challenge, I think.
So I saw Winthrop boys coach Todd MacArthur today. And I said to him, I feel like every time the Class C South tournament gets started, we've already been here for a week. It's one of the last ones to start. They start Monday, correct? Mm-hmm. Or that's not wishful thinking on my part, right? It is Monday.
It is Monday.
I know we've talked about it a little bit, but we're gonna finish at the Augusta Civic Center on Monday. I guess to fill everybody in, we're gonna start with some more Class D South games. 2 boys games, 2 girls games, and then we're into the Class C boys quarterfinals. Anything that you're especially looking forward to there that we haven't mentioned or beaten already into the ground?
I mean, a lot has been made of the top three, the top three seeds in this bracket. I mean, I think it's interesting that you could make a really compelling case for all three teams because Wayne Fleet's a team that plays a really tough Beast South schedule. Winthrop is the 1 seed. Halldale's the defending champion. So there's kind of a trio of favorites there. And Booth Bay. Booth Bay has been a tough matchup. I mean, they almost beat Winthrop at their place.
Yeah, I like Booth. It's funny because I feel like the other day when you guys were talking about the top three, I think it's a little premature to count Booth Bay out because they'll play with everybody.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't say that they're the favorite of the 4, but if you have an off night, Booth Bay's going to make you pay for that. I think they're good enough to take advantage of weaknesses.
And it seems like they have a tendency to win games in this tournament that they're the lower seed or it doesn't seem to be a favorable matchup, and that might be a reflection of Coach Pinkham there, who you talk to anybody who plays him, they rave about the guy and what he can and the way and the teams he's had and what he's been able to accomplish while there. But another thing I have an eye out for is kind of a sleeper team is Monmouth, the 6th seed. They beat Mount Abram. It was close at halftime, and then they just poured it on the second half. And that's a team that we talk about teams that can win different ways. That's a team with size inside with Connor Davies, but some guys on the outside, Gabe Martin and Nevin Burnell, and who can just shoot the lights out. So that's a team. They're going to be playing Halldale in the first round, and I bet you. Chris Ranslow has a little bit of nervousness about going up against that team. I would still think Halldale's going to be the favorite, and they should be. But Monmouth is not going to be an easy out, I don't think.
I like that. Let's see. Let's wrap up today. Let's wrap up or yesterday. Let's wrap up Saturday at the Civic Center. Class A North. Something maybe that kind of stands out to you that we haven't mentioned. Anything in particular?
That stands out about.
I love putting you on the spot.
Yeah. I think we saw Cony do something that they haven't had to do much this year, which was win when the chips were really down. I mean, they've had some games that they got crushed by Oxford Hills throughout the season. So it's not that they haven't been down by a lot; they just haven't overcome it. I don't think. And I mean, I haven't gone through each one of their games, so maybe it has happened more. But we were talking about it. When they fell behind, it felt like maybe they're in uncharted ground here, where what we normally do is not working, and now we have to figure out a backup plan. So, one seeds don't always face the most challenges throughout the season, and but I mean that was tough. This was a real gut check for them to win this one, and I think we saw that they can win. They can win an ugly game, and they can win a game where it looks like it's going to be a challenge all the way through.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think the thing that stands out to me today, which is probably not a surprise, is I felt like this was the best bracket in Augusta, top to bottom, 1 through 8. We had the two higher seed teams lost early. Cony was on the ropes in the third quarter and could easily have lost that game, even at the end.
Yeah.
So we could have had a scenario where 3 of the 4 top seeds lost. I think this bracket is kind of playing the way we imagined it would. I still think Cony's the favorite now, but I don't know. I still feel like what I saw from Brewer today was really good, but I still think what I saw from Marcus Christopher and Skowhegan was really good, and I won't be surprised with any of these 4 teams playing in the final in a week.
Yeah, I'll piggyback on that point and say that if you're a Cony player, a Skowhegan player, a Brewer player, or a Lawrence player, you're going to bed tonight thinking, I think we got this.
You think why not us?
Yeah, exactly. I think you're really thinking that. I don't think there's a team that's left in this field that is outmatched. I mean, people say that sometimes, and it's just kind of a talking point. How true is that really? But I think that really is the case here. That you can. I mean, I was watching Brewer today play Mount Blue, and thinking, who would be able to route this team? Who would be able to have an easy time with this team? They just do a lot of things well. So I think that is a case where there are 4 teams left, and 4 teams have a chance at this.
Yeah, I think you're right. We should probably get some rest. It's going to be a long week.
Yeah, probably.
Well, listen, thanks everybody for listening. As always, centralmaine.com/sports. You can get us there. We're on Facebook. We have live post-game videos, a reaction from players and coaches. We're on Twitter at Central ME Sports. I'll figure that one out eventually. Drew, it's been a pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
You're a workhorse. We appreciate it.
Hell yeah.
And we'll talk to you guys on Monday.